So how many of you on your way to school today turned on the radio and listened to it in the car? Okay, according to Arbitron Radio Ratings Tracker, in a 2007 radio listening trends report, 97% of Americans in the United States, 18 and over, listen to the radio while driving. Why is this important? Today I'm going to speak to you about, first, the history of radio, where it comes from, who invented it, and who first thought that there were radio waves going on in our atmosphere. Second, I'm going to talk to you about what it takes to produce and present an on-air show. And lastly, I'm going to talk to you about some of the challenges that radio faces today. So first, we're going to start with our research before we go live and on the air. In an article by M. Bellis called Radio Speaks from April 2009, and from the book A History of Broadcasting in the United States by E. Barneau, we know that the roots of radio lie with Marconi, Giacomello, and Nikola Tesla. Both were successful in 1902 with creating radio transmitters. Nikola Tesla, though, was credited in 1912 by the United States Supreme Court with the first one to have the patent on radio. He was technically, by law, the first person to find and introduce radio to society. Some of the uses of radio in the early stages were with the telegraph system, and it was mainly used by the military. The U.S. Navy in World War I and II used radio telegraph to send signals to and from their ships and overseas to the different command posts. Both made their transmitters work in 1902, and we learned from J.R. Bitter's 1985 book, Broadcasting and Telecommunications, an introduction, and S.J. Douglas's 1997 book, Inventing American Broadcasting, that there are two different types of radio. There's AM radio, which is amplitude modulation radio, and FM radio, which is frequency modulation radio. The way amplitude modulation radio works is it takes a radio wave, which this is one wave of radio, and what it does is, if you're in a math class, this would be a sine curve, and amplitude is going to change the limits of these 2 points. So depending on what you're broadcasting over your AM frequency, it's either going to get tall and slender, or it's going to get shorter and fatter as time goes on, depending on what you're broadcasting. If it's a normal voice, it looks like the normal sine curve. If you're playing some sort of recording, a speech that someone gave or something of that sort, it's going to be higher. And if it's dead air, you basically have this to little or no movement. You get some static, which will give you these little curves that you have. With frequency modulation, which is FM radio, which is like your music stations, what you're doing is you're taking a sine curve and you're changing the amount of curves in one period. So where your normal sine curves looks like this, you're going to get 1, 2, 3 in that same period of time. Depending on what you're playing, if it's a normal voice, you'll have one sine curve in one period of time. If it's some sort of music, if it's a slow type music, there's going to be even less of a curve in that period of time. Whereas if you're playing something fast, upbeat, with a high bass level, it goes faster and there are more and more curves in between. So what I'm going to show you, there are just a few of what our old radios looked like. This is what people would literally, you would watch the radio when it was first invented. At night, people would gather around the family, in the family room, and you would take a look at the radios and listen to what was going on. In 1912, the first broadcasting company, Westinghouse, decided to put a radio transmitter on the top of the Empire State Building. This was the first radio transmitter, and it broadcasted from the center of New York City all the way to Philadelphia. So now what we're going to do is, we're going to go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, never mind. We have to talk about what it takes to get something on the air, what preparation goes in, and what hosts have to do to make it enjoyable for you. Now in an FM station, their main goal is music. They want to keep you listening, have as many people listening for as much amount of time. That's what our younger demographics listen to, is mostly FM. So what we have here, I don't know if you can see it well because of the lighting. This is a program that's used now by the Desert Radio Group in Palm Springs, California. It's called Maestro. It's also used in many stations across the United States. What this program does is, for an FM station, your programming director will go in the night before and load into here every song that's going to play in a certain amount of time. You'll normally get 1 hour that shows up at a time, and that's all of your music and all of your commercial spots. With an AM radio station, most are news talk format. So what you'll have is here, this is a news talk format. You have your commercial spots at the beginning of the hour. Then what you do is you stop the program from running. You cut it off at the end of your last commercial for that break. Most breaks are around 3 minutes long. What you then do is you have your 15 minutes of talk. Your host is on, he's trying to get people riled up and calling in, and you'll next play your next set of spots. This is also important with syndicated talk shows. Syndicated talk shows, for something that we can relate to, it would be like Big Boy's Neighborhood on in the mornings on 92.7. That's actually broadcast out of LA, and this program actually picks up the broadcast and will broadcast it off of the transmitter at the Desert Radio Group. Next you have the board. This is what's used during your live on-air production. Basically this controls all of your levels, from sound to music to voice, everything that goes out, this is how it's controlled. In this setting, these first 5 control your mics. These 3 control your Maestro program, your spots, how they fire and things like that. And all of these down here are used for sound bites, if you have different things loaded up in the computer. When you call into a radio station, most of the time it's recorded. You'll get on, the person will be talking to you like you're on air. What they're doing is using this program called Cool Edit Pro, and they're recording you to put you on at a later date. So music may be playing while you're sitting there, you know, yay, I just won my prize, and they're recording that, and then later on in the show, they're going to play that to show who the winner was. With all these things, you're finally on the air. According to Valerie Geller's book, just so you guys know, a normal show takes 2 hours of prep for every hour that you're on the air, and that's the minimum. Some of the challenges facing radio today are low ratings. Most people aren't listening, their iPods, things like that. Ratings go down, advertising goes down, people have to be laid off. What I've talked to you guys about today, I've talked to you about the history of radio, how to produce an on-air show, and some of the challenges that radio is facing. Thank you.